So one of the biggest problems when you're dealing with a narcissistic person is that no matter what you do or don't do, in the eyes of the narcissist, you're always going to be wrong, right? It's just you're always wrong. That's really the name of the game. You're always wrong. And, especially if you're the scapegoat, this is what's going on in the mind of the narcissist as they relate to you, right? As they see you, you're always going to be wrong. I mean, and it's not going to ever stop. It doesn't matter what you do. Even if you were actually perfect, I'm sure they would still find something to nitpick you about or, make you wrong for. And, it could be, I mean, in my experience with my narcissist, it's always, it could be anything from, look, why are you wearing those shoes? Or why are you wearing that shirt? Or what's wrong with your pants? Or look at your hair. Why don't you do something with your hair? It could be stuff like that. It could be stuff like a decision you've made with, like a particular job or a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, or anything that you do. I've actually had my narcissist say things like I was making something in the kitchen with a particular pot, right? And it's like, she actually said, why don't you use, you can use this pot. It's like, well, do you need me to use that pot? And it's kind of confusing. I'm sure for you listening to, unless you know what I'm talking about with narcissists, it's like, why are we even talking about a pot? Because that's the thought process of someone who's got a rational, reasonable, sort of mindset. Why are we talking about the pot? And so my question is like, well, does it matter which pot I'm using? And, the answer was, well, no, it doesn't matter if you're using that pot, but you should, you can use this one. So even with something as simple as that, right? Like that simple little interaction, it's kind of like, there's a lot of stuff that's being sort of communicated to you in that kind of statement. Now, the first thing is you're wrong for using that pot, right? Even though they didn't say, don't use that pot, or I'd appreciate it if you didn't use that pot, and if you'd use this one instead, that's not what happened. It's just out of left field, out of nowhere, I'm automatically wrong in some way. And the narcissist can kind of like weasel their way around with this kind of manipulation tactic, because you might think, is there something wrong with using this pot? And my narcissist would say, did I say there's anything wrong with you using that pot? And it's like, technically they didn't use those words, but that's kind of the message they're trying to convey. They're criticizing you in some way or putting you down. If you know what I mean? And so there's that, but then there's sort of like a certain degree of infantilization, and that, on some level they're kind of telling you like, you should make better decisions when using a pot. You can't make the decision on your own. You're not smart enough or capable enough. And they treat you kind of like a helpless child, right? If they're your parent or something, and that's the case that I have. I couldn't make my own decision about which pot to use to to make the food that I was making. It was just one more thing to criticize someone for. So there's some infantilization going on there. It's also a form of baiting, because it's kind of like, why are you constantly harassing me and nitpicking me? And, so they do those things all the time just to get some digs in. But then they, hopefully maybe you'll take that bait and maybe you'll, react in some way or say, hey, stop it, or start an argument. And, and then it just kind of starts, they're always looking to start arguments or drama or whatever, even if we're talking about what pot you're using to cook something in. And again, there was no communication here, like, don't use this pot, because it's like some kind of ancient family heirloom or something like that just should never be used. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about regular pots in a cabinet. You know what I mean? So she's kind of given the message that I can't make up my mind. I can't make the decision on my own as an adult of which pot to use, right? It's just, it's like, even if you're wrong, if you're not completely wrong, there's still a little critique here. You're not using the right pot. And of course, there's no reason to use another pot. And then, of course, we've got some crazy making going on. And I'm sure, like, with this example, you're thinking to yourself, like, what are we talking about? We're talking about a pot here? Why are we even talking about this? But this gives you sort of an example of what it's like dealing with sort of a narcissistic person. It's some stuff like this happens all the time. It's just little stuff that makes no sense, that's not a problem at all, that they just whip up into a problem just to get some of that good old-fashioned narcissistic supply, right? But so then they try to like get you into like some kind of argument or waste your time. What they really are doing is like, manipulating your focus and your attention and your energy to be on them instead of whatever it is that you're doing, which in my case at that time I was making a meal. Now, I'm sure for your rational everyday person, you'd be thinking like, well, how could this be? Like, oh, it be, especially when you're dealing with narcissists. This is sort of the pleasure of dealing with these type of people. And this is what, they're always doing. And so the pot is one example, but, it's always something, right? It could be the pot, it could be this, it could be that. And they never and what's interesting also is like you can say, oh, I guess I'm just constantly doing everything wrong. In their eyes, it's just like nonstop criticism and put downs. But even if you ask them directly, they never specifically and clearly tell you or communicate what their needs are or what they'd like to see you do different. They're just moving the goalpost around, like we've heard so many times. So, and this is what a no-win scenario is, right? Like, it doesn't matter what it is. It's not a double bind. It's just like a infinite bind. Like, no matter what you do, you're just wrong, right? So, in their eyes, you just got to understand that you're always wrong. In fact, your very existence really kind of irritates them because, generally speaking, because they're projecting so much and so consistently, their particular scapegoat is usually someone who's mirroring back themselves. Like, you could just be standing there not doing anything or sitting there and they're just automatically pissed at your presence. And the reason that is because there's something about you that's showing them themselves. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just sort of like acting like a mirror. And so that's a big reason why they don't like it. You're just always wrong. In fact, it's because it's almost like you're wrong just for existing, because they don't want to see themselves. How dare you, like reveal some of their true selves to themselves, even though you're just there. You're just existing, right? And that's the ultimate thing. In their eyes, you got to understand, you're at the core of this, you're wrong for existing. That's the message they're giving you, right? Like the subconscious under sort of the subconscious message is you're wrong. Just your entire being, your thoughts, your feelings, no matter what it is, you're wrong. You're just wrong, right? You're always it's almost like you're a mistake, or you know what I mean? And that's what they're going to be doing to you. No matter what's going on, whether it's raging or just little nitpicks, you're always going to be wrong in their eyes. And with that, we will conclude this video for today. If you're interested in learning more about narcissistic personality disorder, narcissistic abuse, or CPTSD, there are helpful links in the description below. If you're struggling with CPTSD and would like to heal and get your life back, Healing from CPTSD also has a course available that will help you to do that in a simple yet powerful way. All links are in the description below.